Okay. Just before I cut the camera off, I was thinking about what shape I wanted to make. I think I'll make a stemmed arrowhead out of this one. But again, that could change if something breaks where I don't think it unexpectedly. If something breaks unexpectedly, I'll have to change the strategy. But right now, I think I'll make it a stemmed point, kind of like a perdice, because that'll give me, an opportunity to thin that base a lot if I, come in with some really deep notching. I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit to run this next pass. This is pretty flat here on this side. I'm going to run a pass over here, so I'm going to turn the edge upward. I can really feel how tough it is when I'm pressure flaking. Lost quite a bit of width there, but I think I would have to lose width there anyway because of that cortex area. And most of the time when I say I'm cleaning up the edges, I'm bringing the center line of the edge closer to center. I don't know if that made sense, but I'm trying to make the edge closer to center all the way around instead of favoring one side or the other. If I'm not going to run flakes on one particular side, I'd like to even out and dress up the edge and make it all symmetrical and closer to the center line of the workpiece. Because the base looks pretty symmetrical as far as thickness and convexity. It's the blade that I need to work on here. See, I can get rid of this at a later stage, but right now I've got to remove some of this, try to flatten this, and then come back and try to get rid of a lot of this mass in here. So I'll turn the edge up this way so I can run flakes here, and turn the edge the other way so I can remove this. And that'll give me a nice triangular shaped blade, because I'm going to lose some width. Every time you turn the edge, you lose a little bit of width. And beveling would also work, but to achieve a bevel, initially you lose a lot of width. You don't lose much after you do the bevel, but you do lose a lot before the beveling. switch over back over to the larger flaker because I was having some trouble removing flakes with the smaller flaker. Some, long thinning flakes were harder with the smaller diameter. So let's see what I can do here. With the larger flaker, I need better or thicker platforms. And I did turn the edge to try and, favor removing flakes from this side only, but I'm going to take opportunistic flakes on both sides. Now this is a stage where it can be broken because I'm hitting extremely hard on these very beefy platforms. And again, my finger may have stopped that from traveling. But there's not much choice on these smaller preforms. You've got to be able to hold it somehow. I can get that kind of step fracture later when I work on the base. So with one strike I got rid of that little island of step fractures there. That's kind of the ideal situation. The least amount of flakes you can make, the better. Okay, so if they're traveling at least halfway, maybe slightly more, it still gets thinned down. They don't have to travel, 3/4 of the way. As long as they're just slightly past halfway, you're still thinning. Okay. So that's about the furthest I want to go with that large flaker. Lost quite a bit of width there. It was 1 inch, I think, last time I measured it. And what I'm doing now is I am kind of dressing up the edge and moving the center line of that edge, but I'm also, you know, I guess now subconsciously I'll turn it a little bit more toward a heavier area. As I'm trimming, I'll make sure that I'm trimming in a direction that'll favor flake removals across a thick spot. And then I'll abrade it, and I'll come back and you know, I'll see, just, you know, second nature, I'll see which areas are, you know, turned in a certain way. In the beginning, when I was first learning the flint knap, I couldn't, you know, go around the whole piece, turn certain edges in certain ways, and then come back and remember what I was doing. I'd be totally lost if I didn't turn first and then flake and then turn and then flake, you know, right away. I'd be lost as to where to remove flakes. But now, with more experience, I can just go around the whole edge, and then, you know, it's just second nature for me now to know where to hit to remove the mass. So it goes pretty quickly, because I know where to trim to favor one side or the other if I want to. Mostly it's just kind of dressing up the edge, making sure there's no thick spots, and if I see an opportunistic flake to do a little bit of thinning on the edge, I'll take it, I'll test some certain areas, see if they're solid, like that right there. It seems to be pretty solid, so I can run flakes into that area. Anyway, it's getting pretty small, so I need to start doing the general shape, you know, finishing out the general shape and then finishing out the point. Still going to need to put in these side notches, remove a lot of this material so I can make it a stemmed point. But I'm doing a little bit of thinning before then. Just need to thin down this area, and I need to do this now and then this when I'm shaping the base. Yeah, that's what happens with a lot of force on a relatively thin edge. You take the bite out of the side. Anyway. Kind of disappointing. So that means, I don't have much opportunity to remove that mass. That opportunity was my best one, and it failed. So I'm gonna have to remove that mass from some other direction. Try to clear off these step fractures with some other direction. Okay, so these bevels can help me to run flakes in that direction. Switch back to the 1/4 inch copper. Okay, so basic shaping is done. This next thinning pass is going to have to count. I have to make this one count because it's getting very small. There's a lot of variation in the material right there. Okay, so what's happening is I'm having to build very strong platforms for these strikes on this material, and I'm losing a lot of width. So it's considerably smaller than I wanted, and it's kind of disappointing. But what I'm going to do is let's see. I've pretty much exhausted the large flakes that I can do, except maybe some from these notches in here. So we'll see. And I could have, from that piece, I could have just pressure flaked down to this as well, instead of having to be, you know, fiddling around with indirect percussion platforms and stuff and trying to thin and all that. I could have just, you know, whittled it down with pressure flaking and got to this point as well. So that's the disappointing part. It still can be made into an arrowhead, of course, so I will do that. But I wasn't able to drive in the flakes that were necessary to make it a thin point. But we'll see. Still got a few opportunities. It's much harder to get them thin when they're this small. Okay. $29. I'll just clean this up and then turn it off and start with the finishing on the next video. That's good. Yeah, that's good for now. I'll just finish up on the next video.